Welcome back to the Sixth Man. We're joined here by the Sixth Man himself, who is, I'm not sure what he is doing here because he is knocked out. I think he's just here as a participation award. Here with House Lasku, I've got my team coming up, the Celtics, and we're here also with House of 03, who has got his team coming up, which is the Heat. Now, I remember when I was doing you guys were all in accord together doing the playoff draft, and I was in Italy sort of preparing for my draft. And Jordan, you were just before me. Last year, we had a blinding year. We were number one, number two.
Yeah.
And we had a bit of back and forth. I kept on flirting with the sister, let's say, and they end up completely flaming out. So good riddance. But then it came to this year, and then you were ahead of me. You were fourth, I was fifth. And there are a couple picks which I was and ahhing between, and it depended on what you would have done.
Yeah.
So in the second round, it was the first round, sorry, you had a couple teams from the East still available. And the two I was dilemmaing about were the Heat and the Celtics. And I probably would have still had the Celtics ahead just because they had a better end of the year. And I thought, you know what, potentially let's go for the Celtics. But you took the decision away from my hands. You picked the Heat and I had the Celtics. And how things line up, it's the Heat versus the Celtics, House Lasku versus House of 03 in the Eastern Conference. George, how you feeling?
Get a room. Get a room, man.
Yeah, I should get a room. I should get a championship suite somewhere where have you seen the champions that they've got on Bleacher Report? No, it's not. Have you seen that French Canadian guy on Bleacher Report who has the Champions League hotel room? So all the teams check into the hotel room, but of course you would understand. So basically all the teams that make it further on in the Champions League, they get invited to the Champions League hotel room. And when they lose, they check out. So you're already checked out. You're waiting for the taxi outside the hotel. Some of us have got an extra couple of nights at the hotel. We're just trying to, But anyway,
have you won a fantasy championship on NBA? No. Anyway, let's start.
No.
Let's start.
You beat me on the road to the final, which I was pleased for you, but let's not get ahead of ourselves there. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. No, I generally was. I told you when you won. I was pleased for you. But anyway, George, back to serious business. Thoughts on the Eastern Conference?
I'm excited, man. I mean, first of all, it feels good to be in the finals. Can you feel that? Oof.
This guy has done no work on the group project. He's got 2 teams out of 4.
Turns up to get the 8.
That's a joke.
Did you ever have one of those where the lecturer asked you to rate how your teammates performed? I was like, what the fuck is this? I don't want to have to do this. You're like, what are we rating? Like how much grades we're giving people? This is really shitty. Pardon?
You throw him under the bus.
Yeah.
Anyway,
go on.
We move. So it's a bit difficult. I remember right at the beginning when we were discussing all the teams for the playoffs, everyone was strong favorites for Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah.
Celtics turned up everyone now and then, but still everyone had Bucks to come out ahead. And then here we are now, Celtics have come out the way. And if you watch that series, Celtics did very well. And I feel like they do have that connection advantage with the way they move the ball and the options. They just play tough basketball, which, they have that going for them. And I think that's where the Heat may struggle slightly in certain areas. We'll just have to see where we come up from there in that aspect. I know that before in certain games where we would rely heavily on Jimmy Butler in places here and there. So I'm hoping we can find a way around that. I'm still voting for the Heat to come out ahead overall, but who knows, man? We've seen it's happened with the Bucks before. We'll see if it happens again if the Celtics pull out ahead. What about you, man? What are your thoughts?
So one of the points I wanted to raise about the Heat was, so the discussion we had last week with Alex and with Brandon about Philly Heat was how I said to them at the end of it, firstly, are we just overreacting to this Philly performance? And secondly, are the Heat even that good? Are we watching the real Eastern Conference finals happening in the Midwest and in the east of the country? Now, I felt that whoever wins that was going to win the East. But the things that don't make me comfortable is the Celtics were in a bloodbath with the Bucks. There was a lot of let the bodies hit the floor, and a lot of trying to get Giannis down. And Giannis is a big, big fella. Watching some of the collisions between Grant Williams and Giannis made you like, oh shit, that was a big hit. So I do think that Celtics could be a bit sore. And one of the things I teased earlier on when we discussed Mavs and Luka was there are times when I really just don't like the Celtics offense. It is a lot of mid-range jumpers and a lot of perimeter shots, which aren't necessarily open at times off the dribble, not necessarily high quality shots, which again, when they go in, look really good, but when they don't, just look really bad. There are a couple moments in the Bucks series where Jaylen Brown, I felt, was a little bit underwhelming, but then again, he'll go on and score 15 or 20 points and have some sort of impact.
And still have quite a few of those highlight plays which pop up every now and then.
Yeah. But he was getting attacked by Giannis quite a bit. But I mean, it is Giannis, so yeah. Playoff Jimmy Butler is a different beast, which is super interesting. And Bam is an undersized big. And the Celtics can throw a couple of them. Maybe it might favor the fact that he's undersized for Robert Williams now to come back into the series. But it's going to be a really fun matchup to watch. I just think that the Celtics have been through a lot, and the Heat could take their pocket money a little bit if they're smart about it. But what another thing we spoke about, another mini storyline, is will Duncan Robinson have an impact this series? We've seen that role players have had a big impact, whether it was Grant Williams or Peyton Pritchard, or in the last series when Grayson Allen hit all those threes, or Al Horford when he had his game last week in the previous series. These role players are going to have a big, big impact. As much as Giannis gives you 50 points, someone else needs to score about 20 or 30 to pick up the rest of the scoring, because the game isn't going to end 50-50. You need to get up to 90 points somehow, by crook or by nook. Somehow you need to get up to that 90 benchmark.
That's why I think the Celtics are winning this series. For me personally, the Heat actually have a lot of things in their favor. They have the best home record in the regular season, and they haven't lost in the playoffs so far. Those first two games are going to be extremely important, especially as the Celtics are 4-1 on the road. So there's obviously something's got to give, right? But where I see this playoff series being decided is actually on the bench. The Heat actually, well, let's start with the Celtics and the positives. They have the second ranked bench in the playoffs. The Heat have the 10th ranked bench. So it's okay. But if you're getting into the elite of the elite, we need players to step up, and they need to shoot better than 32.1% from three, because it is going to get into a shooting match, like Ed said. Unfortunately, not that I love it all the time, but they shot a record of playoff threes, and I don't like that. I don't like that brand of basketball. But that's what it's going to come down to. You need Max Strus, you need Duncan Robinson, you need Gabe Vincent to hit these shots, not in a complete influx, but to sort of keep the defense guessing on the Celtics side. Go on, Ed, what were you saying?
On that exact point, when I was watching Game 7, I was thinking, oh shit, this reminds me a lot of Game 1. All these open 3-point shots that the Celtics were just missing in Game 1 was happening in Game 7, but they're just hitting them. Because that's what the Bucks do in it. They allow the most threes, and it was so visible. Game 1 and Game 7. It's what I said to you coming out of Game 1. I was like, Alex, like, they're just shooting all these threes, and you're like, oh, that's just modern day NBA. But I'm like, I don't know, it feels like a lot, but it happened again Game 7, and they just hit them this time.
Yeah, it was almost a case of, you're going to keep leaving us open. It's going to drop at some point, and I think it's inexcusable to leave a shooter like Grant Williams, who's like, I don't know, I think I heard he was 50% in the corner.
I thought it was like something like 40% from the corner. Yeah,
I mean, that's a really high clip. But yeah, the Heat have got their work out. How the Heat win this series is obviously by making it can be a very defensive series as well. Can the Heat make it difficult for the Jason Tatum, the Jaylen Browns? Jaylen Brown has been known to disappear in certain games. But
I can't remember which game it was. He like fumbled the ball off his leg at least 3 or 4 times in one of the games. I'm like, bro, what's going on here? What's up?
The thing is they haven't really it hasn't been highlighted because they've been progressing, and also because other players have been stepping up. It will be interesting to see if the strategy from the Heat is to get them Jaylen Brown to beat them. Maybe that's a strategy.
Two really, he can do it.
Yeah.
Oh no,
I still think
with
that
definitely
in the
but is he
game, like
consistent?
Heat would definitely take an early lead, personally. Like for the first few games before it gets like similar to like the Sixers matchup before.
Is he consistent though, guys? Is he consistent enough to do it? Yes, he can do it for one game, but
that's the question.
You know,
yeah, I'm with you on that.
Again, I don't know the answer, but and I really like Jaylen Brown, but yeah, the Celtics. I'm going to put the pressure on you, Ed. Here, I think the Celtics might be the favorite for the NBA title. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right,
it's tough to say. What are you? Do you agree with that, George?
Yeah, I would say. I think coming into this season, I think again Suns were more of a heavy favorite, mainly because of the whole storyline with CP3 winning the ring. Definitely up there, but now with them knocked out, I would say Celtics would be the top favorite.
Let's give a lot of credit to Udoka, first year coach, had a tough start to the season. They made a couple of changes, and the season has turned around. And it was a confusing move in the off season when Brad Stevens stepped down. I know he had some troubles within the playoffs, and he had some teams which didn't get to where the Celtics wanted them to be. But I mean, impressive.
Yeah, so Simmons brought up the point about the coaching change was, as much as Brad Stevens is a genius and knows basketball X and O's to a T, blah, 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 he may not have had that personality type to just have a go at the players and shout at them and challenge them to do better, because Udoka was slating the players in the first half of the year. Again, because I had Celtics one of my teams, I was following along. I was like, whoa, these are like really being called out. I remember there was a whole Marcus Smart stuff about, we just need people to sort of pass the ball a bit more, not just go ISO in the fourth quarter, which is a lot. That's what a lot of teams do. That's why in the fourth quarter, give it to the best player, let the best player do it. And that's what tends to happen. There was one play, I can't remember if it was game 6 or, I think it may have been game 6, one of my favorite plays of this playoffs. It was like about a 10 pass session when it was just drive, kick. Defense was all scrambled all over, went to wide open man. Such a fun basketball play. And I was like, well, that's what you want to see. That's the euphoria of a team bucket. But yeah, really good point on the coaching. Udoka's really challenging them and really giving them a little bite. That team embodies it. Smart is that sort of player. Jaylen Brown's that sort of player. Tatum is a bit of a silent assassin as well. Grant Williams is very chirpy like that. You saw him leading into the huddle. Emmanuel Boué classic, Rondo classic as well. So yeah, good point on the coach.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Celtics in 6.
I was gonna say Celtics in 6 as well.
George?
I'm gonna stick with my team here. I'm gonna stick with Pete. Stick out true. I can't turn around on that. I don't know who I'll be if I say something different. So I'm gonna go Heat in 7.
Couple last things because they're gonna relate to the Bucks. Firstly, we said about the Middleton thing, how like putting Drew Holiday as a number 2 guy may not necessarily be the best option. And just again, I'm a Chris Middleton truther. So that's the first point. Secondly, people have been picking up on it now, but I remember at the end of the season where the Bucks sort of surrendered that game to whoever it was, rested all their starters, and the Celtics went out to win it. And people thought, oh, are they trying to avoid the Nets? And that game 7 in Massachusetts seemed to have really helped them out. Sort of the basketball gods really came out for them in the game 7, because that's why you want the top seed. You never know what could happen. So fair play to the Celtics. And that, I think that also helps with the Celtics mentality. Fuck it. We don't care who you play. Give us whoever you want. We're going to win. And I think that went a long way as well.
You got to root for teams like that. I don't like dodging. You got to beat the team. You got to beat them at some point, right?
Yeah.
So I completely agree.
Always going to meet them.
In the words of Ric Flair, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And the man is now Jason Tatum. Because if Giannis was the man, they beat the man. Jason Tatum is now riding the bus, as I'm assuming Charles Barkley would say.
Yes, he did.